I'm Mohesh. So I'm here to present my pedagogical methods to you. Uh, my pedagogical method is called the surround conscious pedagogy, and let me walk you through it. So my aim is to create sustainable architectural pedagogy to equip future designers to relate, respond, and render sustainability at all three levels. It's personally, socially, and systemic levels through quality education. So I've always been interested in sustainable development goals by United Nations. So these sustainable development goals, they give us a clear guiding path in where do we need to work on our sustainability, starting from no poverty till the 17th goal, which is partnership for goals. So I selected number 3, 4, 11, 12, and 17, which is good health and well-being, quality education, sustainable cities and communities, and finally responsible development. So if you ask me about the intent, so why and who, it is for the people, the native and the city as well. And through how, it is through quality education, as I said before, and through learning, teaching, and innovation. And what would be the derivative actions are reuse and recycle, research and collaboration, and the systemic level activism or grassroots activism, where we'll be responsibly consuming and producing, and we'll also be partnering with the others. Starting with the intent, so we can see that it is for the people, the social sustainability, it drives the pedagogical inquiry at most of my classes and workshops. They're leading to explorations in health and well-being, cultural vitality, and urban community bonds. So there's a saying that if you can't take care of yourself and the people around, and how can you take care of the city or the nation, right? Change starts within us. Moving on to the native, which is very important. We often, as architects, we tend to go and look at case studies at various places. We start looking at case studies at distant places. We start looking them at distant. We travel. We take a look at other architects, but we need to realize that we need to travel nearby. We need to look at our own neighborhoods. That is why local is very important. And teaching local sustainability is vital for preserving native sources, cultures, ecosystems, while fostering community-driven practices and reduce travel for learning. Thereby, it reduces the carbon footprint as well. Then it comes to the city, and by city, it is your own city and your own hometown. And most of our studios, we address the urban sustainability through situational reframing our own context. We use adaptive techniques and place-based design for ecological, social, and cultural resilience. So here are some of the outputs we can see where in the urban design in the Srirangam studio. So the student design talks in a rich cultural, in a temporal way, where the users tend to accommodate those festival spaces. And this is one of the sample assignment where students were encouraged to look at their immediate neighborhood where they live. It was called Theories and Your Neighborhood, where we take Jan Gale and Kevin Lynch and all these principles and we apply them in our own surroundings to learn better. This is one of the defunct colonies, which is immediately next to our campus, and we look them at urban design. Many of us think urban design necessarily means it needs to be a cosmopolitan or a metropolitan city. But when it comes to urban design, it is also these kinds of defunct spaces that definitely needs urban attention. Through how? It is very important that we keep ourselves updated with the tools of knowledge exchange in this ever-changing, ever-growing technological era. That is why interdisciplinary approaches are very important and vital for sustainability. And as sustainability is not a one-size-fits-all approach, and we cannot see it only through an architectural, we need help from various disciplines. The second tools of knowledge is teaching and learning, where the digital medium steps in. As we know that consumption of paper is such a romanticizing aspect, especially in architectural education. That's where digital tools step in. Wastage of paper, carbon footprint is increasing day by day and more than ever. And digital tools in sustainable living and teaching methods help minimize paper usage, thereby promoting environmental consciousness and create immersive learning experience. A quick example would be taking an iPad or a computer and then annotating the students' work over it rather than printing and evaluating their progress. These are some of the manually drawn assignments for students where they started looking at the immediate context, at the campus spaces where they went around and learned their own surroundings. Coming to the actions, first act would be the act of upcycling. It is not about just recycling, but it's also about practicing sustainability and material reuse in assignments. And upcycling minimizes waste, reuses materials, and lowers environmental impact, especially in academic. For example, we used and used charcoal um, pouch from an visual arts class, and then we created an assignment especially for those charcoals. Also, we made learning out of. And there was another workshop where the local trash was collected, and we made a map out of it. And the next act is the act of coming together. As I said before, as much as interdisciplinary approaches are important, coming together is very important. Collaboration drives this entire framework by sharing knowledge, ensuring commitment, enabling both local, national, and global actions. And finally, the pedagogical method does not stop there. Act of spreading the word is the only way that we can measure the real world impact. SDGs, they drive progress, but awareness builds communities, sparks actions, and ensures sustainability. Here you can see some of the samples of students' outcomes in mapping the local textures, using local materials, the act of reusing and recycling, and a workshop exhibit where the panel is just made out of pie, also called the flow mat, where students they looked at their immediate local villages and mapped and learned attention restoration theory. This was one of the charcoal exercises I was talking earlier about. Now, sustainable pedagogy doesn't mean a pedagogy is just run sustainable. So here we can see from the aim, I told that there was personal, social, and systemic levels. So how are these platforms and where are they reached? First, impersonal. It helps me in knowledge structuring in classroom setup, training for teaching delivery, and lecture-based learning. Secondly, it applies for the social, which is for the students, classroom assignments, the studio, exhibition, and discussion, which comes under experimentation and practicing. Then we have collaboration and social impact, which involves the local community, which brings in real world engagement through NGO participation, involvement, volunteering, speed mentoring, and workshops. And finally, on a systemic level, is where advocacy and systemic changes step in, where scaling and influence is very necessary, such as conference, public platforms, research publications, collaboration network, foundation, institution, industry partnerships. I wanted to give you a quick impact snapshot where these metrics are not merely a display of numbers, but they are a compelling call to scale these initiatives further. While they represent just the beginning, so it is very important that they highlight the tangible progress that is achieved thus far in this last 2 years. Most importantly, they understood the need for continued support and collaboration in shaping a sustainable. There were more than 300 students that were involved and impacted, and 10 plus courses now they integrate sustainability. And there are 6 books that are published on sustainability in the act of spreading the word. There's practical implementations such as exhibits and workshops that's being conducted. And we looked into 6 neglected, defunct urban sites that were studied and investigated. In the wider learning exposure, trainings attended, conferences reached, and international sustainability learning visits were encouraged. And moving on, there is community and systemic linkages, where 4 of the institutions were participated, 3 cross disciplines were collaborated, and 5 foundations and NGO were involved. Moving forward, this pedagogy is in dire need of practice in integrating practice and activism. The goal is not just to teach sustainability, but to build it, scale it, and integrate it into the very fabric of architectural teaching, practice, and policy. That involves two more SDGs, which is Sustainable Development Goal number 9, which involves industry, innovation, and infrastructure, and finally, climate and action. And if you ask me how, I plan to secure research grants to develop and test sustainability through to driving build solutions, initiating pilot projects serving as test beds for sustainable construction, material innovation, and spatial resilience. And I also aim to forge practice-based cross-disciplinary collaborations by connecting academia, industry, and communities to bridge knowledge and action. And finally, embedding activism into practice, which is very needed in this pedagogical framework, where we all aim to advocate for systemic changes through policy, grassroots action, and public. So I encourage everyone to not just look sustainability as a different department or a different discipline, but rather than your own way of living. Thank you so much to Ethos, the team, and Arcas for this wonderful opportunity to share this to everyone. Thank you.